So today we have a very special guest with us. He's the best-selling author, international best-selling author. Don't Get Bullied by Your Bank. He's a dear friend of mine, Mr. Brian. How you doing, Mr. Brian?
Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Good, good. So today we're going to speak about your journey, how we got to know each other through my business, and then in how you solve problems for big companies. So for instance, I remember that you, tell us a little bit about what were you trying to achieve when I met you, and what was your vision back then for your business?
So I came into financial services after a career in telecommunications. That then when the dot-bomb went off, I then went into real estate and did that business till about 2007, went back to tech. The industry was brutal. The CIOs were running around with their hair on fire because the CFOs were taking their budgets. I went to a friend and basically he invited me into investment banking. So I went into that industry. As I began to see what was happening there, I was shocked, frankly, by how some of these guys operate. Later went into wealth management and was working with some of the top families on the East Coast with a group out of Palm Beach. And just began seeing things that rubbed me the wrong way. And so I began keeping notes on it since 2013. And by the time 2020 rolled around, COVID happened. I was about to and trying to buy a business in the financial services space. Just as it happened, COVID hit. We all got sent home. And I was moved by the Spirit, frankly, to write a book. And I saw this, what flashed in my mind was this was the sabbatical I never thought of having, but the command, if you will, was write the book.
So if I want this book, where can I get it? So this is the book, Don't Get Bullied by Your Bank.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
So after you did this book, which is a very interesting book, I like it. It really talks about how dangerous it is to maneuver unknown territory. Like you always say, what you don't know can hurt you.
Yeah.
And knowing you is basically that you already know all the loopholes and the intentions and everything that happens in the industry, and you saving them from falling.
Right. That's how I try to position myself, was as an advocate, right? So, if you're the business owner, it's like owning an NFL team. You're the owner. I'm the coach on the ground. I know the players and I know the plays.
Exactly.
And if it turns out someone doesn't run the route, I'll basically have them rerun it, or we'll replace them with someone that understands their role. But at the end of the day, it's all about you getting the outcome you want. And that's what's driven me. And it's been really difficult, frankly. I'm operating as an independent rather than being on the platform of a JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, whomever it might be. Because those people don't have as many options, and they do what serves the bank, not what serves the people.
That's true.
So I position myself as someone who's really more interested in the people. I don't come from banking. I don't come from money. My dad was a blue-collar worker for the power company. My mom was a school nurse. And the fact that I'm in Palm Beach with all these custom suits and all these blue blood Ivy League lawyers, accountants, bankers, it was something I, frankly, networked my way into that circle, and to perform, studied like crazy. And as I learned a few things and then began connecting the dots, what I saw was these guys aren't here to serve the people. If that was my mom and dad, I'd be upset right now.
They just want their feast.
That's what they're doing. They want to do what serves them. Yeah.
So you know what you know. Now, when it comes to building an infrastructure for your business, that's where you seek other help. People that are more familiar with technology. Now, is a business owner supposed to know these things?
No, you can't know everything. You have to build a team. I always say you have to build a team. And so, when I went to go do the book, I guess this segues right into how we got to know each other. I went and I understood I was trying to go from a brick and mortar banking environment to in the cloud, because this was all during COVID and everything was being done on Zoom. So I had to go learn all kinds of technologies. I didn't understand how they integrated, but I wanted to get my message out to the world that I'm here to help these people, and I wanted to leverage, what I worked really hard on that book to get that message to the people. And my experience was horrible, as you know. You met me when I was just really, really at
You
my
went to
wit's end.
experts.
I went to experts. I went to, again, one of the companies, High Level, as an example, is really known as the next generation for a platform to build a practice and the marketing and some of the infrastructure for onboarding and sales, et cetera, and then working with one of their partners. I was promised the world that I was going to get exactly what I wanted and told them all along the way, you could build me a Bugatti, but if I don't know how to drive this thing, I'm going to wreck it in the first mile. And what ended up happening was I spent a tremendous amount of money on a lot of disparate technologies with people that didn't talk to each other, much like my own industry when I'm talking about the lawyers, the CPAs, the management consultants.
There's no communication internally.
None, zero. No one cared about my outcome. No one cared whether it worked. And then, as you know, it's funny, you and I were sitting there talking, and I was kind of, just like going, oh, God, I went through this. I tried to do that. And you're like, do you know what I do for a living? And we've been friends. And I'm like, I really don't. And then you started to show me what you're doing at RewardLion. I'm like, that's exactly what I was trying to do. And then you showed me how you integrated all of these technologies. You streamlined everything. And then your people that you brought to the table helped me gain confidence that I had a team by way of your team to accomplish what I was setting out to do.
Then you had communication, so you had a good system.
100%.
You had the infrastructure, and you had the team to manage it.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of companies fail to do. Plus, you have me on your corner, which advice is essential.
Right.
Like, let's say if you would have come to me and we met earlier, like that's what I do with my current customers and my current partners. When they come to me, they're like, okay, this is my vision. I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And I want to monetize on it. And that's how it really works. You're good at something and you monetize on it.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing we tell them, okay, so there's an infrastructure phase and then there's a scaling phase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't have finance to cover the infrastructure and the scaling, shouldn't even start.
Right.
Now, most companies know that, but when you come to them, they're like, you know what, let's do the infrastructure and then we'll talk about the next phase, because they don't care if you succeed or you fail. They just want to make sure that they get finance for building that, and then they made the money.
They don't care about the outcome.
Nope.
And back to my analogy, it's one thing to build a Bugatti, but if there's no gas in the tank, it won't leave the driveway, which is exactly what happened to me.
That's true.
Because I had every expectation that the information I had value, and if I could get myself out into the ether online, like a lot of these other gurus, for lack of a better word, I'd be able to educate the people that there's another way. And it makes a lot of sense to have an advocate who's going to show you the ropes as here's what you're about to step into. And if nothing else, the role I would play, it'd be able to kind of whisper in their ears. And as I do with my own consultants, I always say, listen, I'm pretty humble. It's like, listen, I'm going to ask you all of the, again, as I was a teacher, the only stupid question is the question you have that you don't ask. Exactly. And so I'd say, I'm going to bring all my questions to you. And if you help me understand this, when I go into this next step, I'm going to be in a much better position to understand what I need and what I want and recognize a red flag when I hear it. And so that's who I wanted to be for these business owners, because in many cases, they've got any one of these practitioners. They'll come to him and say to the lawyer, hey, should I sell my business? Guy wants to make an offer. The answer 99 times out of 100 is going to be yes. Why? He wants to draft the paperwork to do the deal. Now, is it what's in your best interest or your family's? What I often saw was many times it's not. In fact, statistically, 80% of the people who seek to sell their business will never find a buyer. And of the 20% that do, when asked 1 year later whether they enjoyed the experience, 75% of them say no. It's a horrible statistic.
Because everyone wants just to make his money. Like when I got screwed by corporate and then I went to a lawyer, I got screwed by the lawyer.
Right.
So it's like, I'm like Nemo in the Shark Tank. I'm just getting and I have no experience.
Right.
And I tell people, like, when you find someone that knows what he's doing, you better pay them now, or you're going to pay later on your own through
the hard way.
The hard way.
Right.
Like I learned the hard way and a lot of things. You learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Now, people that work with us, they don't have to learn the hard way.
No, not in these areas of the business.
Not in those
but this is the thing, too. And you said something that I always love, which is, we're problem solvers. Mm-hmm. And what people get with working with us is our experience. And the fact that we've been knocked around a little gives us some experience. We've got scars, right?
Yep.
But we've also kissed a lot of frogs. I say this to people all the time. I know the good guys and the bad guys. Who do you want to work with? And usually they recoil. The good guys, it's like, great, hire me and I'll introduce you. because it's ugly out there. It's really crazy.
That's true. And you know everything I don't know. Like, you have so much experience when it comes to the exit a business or scaling a business, infrastructure financially. Like, all the financial headache, you're an expert in it. And you just needed a company to help you build your own engine.
Right.
Because as a business owner or as an expert, you're good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to be good at everything you do.
That's true of everybody. And back to my analogy with the football, right? You're the head coach. I say this to my son because he sometimes gets concerned about certain things he can't do. I said, John, it's about building a team, building a dream team and whatever. And I would talk about football and say the quarterback's going to get a ring. Like the Super Bowl just happened, ironically, right? The receiver is going to get a ring. That running back, he's going to get a ring. That big, huge, 365-pound, 6'6" lineman, he's going to get a ring. You know who's also going to get a ring? That guy whose uniform is nice and clean and he never gets hit when the long snapper snaps in the ball and he puts his finger on the ball so the kicker can put it through the uprights. He gets a ring too. It takes a team. Irrespective of the particular role, you're only as good as your weakest link. So if you don't have that guy and you lose by the extra point, what a way to lose. Pay the man.
That's true. Like, we always talk about business because I always talk with you about like my clients and my partners. Yeah. And we talk about XYZ because we don't mention their names.
Right.
And you always have interesting way of explaining things that will help the business. Mm-hmm. So for instance, when we were talking about XYZ wants to flip medical spas, because I have a couple of companies that basically they're in the business of getting medical clinics that are very low performing. They increase their bottom line and then they want to sell. And you told me something very interesting, because you said, why would they sell? Why don't they just keep scaling it?
Right.
And when you look at it, do they know that? They don't. They think they're probably just gonna, sell. And there is a good way of just selling and building a new brand. But if it's very powerful, why not scale it?
It's an asset.
It is.
Okay, so if you have a non-performing asset, sell it. If you have a performing asset, keep it. Take very good care of it, promote it, maybe get another one and generate more revenue from another performing asset. But it's what would upset me with these families that would come to the door that spent 30, 35 years building a business, and someone comes through the door and makes them an offer. And so they go to the lawyer or the CPA, hey, do you think we should sell the business? The answer is going to be yes.
Yes.
Because they're going to get their fee to draft documents. They're going to get their fee to do audits. But no one ever asks them, what are you solving for? The guy might be pulling $300,000-$400,000 a year out of the business. He's X age. We got to get him to 100 is the number that we use. That book was going to be titled Women, Widows, and Wealth, because we're going to have a tsunami of widows that cannot take care of themselves because there's been no planning for them, which is what got my Irish up and wanted to get that word out there. But if it turns out they need the X number of dollars a year, maybe the move is don't sell this thing. It took you 35 years to get it right where you're making this kind of money. Maybe you do a strategic hire and you pay somebody maybe more than fair market value to take over for you. You might have industry insight that requires you may be taking two people that can get along and understand the culture and the value that your product or service brings to the table. Maybe you do an acquisition where you acqui-hire that particular skill set, but you begin to develop other either clients or markets or internal talent that you can use to strengthen the team as you integrate it. So there's all kinds of options. It just depends on where they are. These things don't get put on the table oftentimes until it's too late, because when they show up at my door, they've already done their deal. I've said this to you a number of times privately. What got me going was to see them at the table when we discover, okay, here's what they come to the table with their bag of money. They got clobbered in taxes because they didn't do any tax planning. They didn't do any sheltering to protect some of this money and hide it and lower their taxable income. And then here's what's left. They're X age and they got to get to 100. Here's what you need to live on. To see husband and wife in tears in a fancy schmancy office with all these custom suits in Palm Beach come to tears because they realized they just sold the golden goose.
You got screwed.
And they got screwed. And they got to sell the second home. The girlfriend or the daughter's not going to have have the big wedding she wanted to have, however it's going to impact the family. Now, here's the other thing. Back to your question with the med spa as an example, right? You sell that asset so fast, okay, you've got this income. Okay, what are you going to do with it? Is it a short-term capital gain, a long-term capital gain? You've got taxes you're going to pay on it. Mm-hmm. And now you've got what we call reinvestment risk. You've got to now go find some place where you're going to invest it and get a return on that investment. Well, what if you just parlayed the one good, cash flowing asset you have into a second or a third or a fourth, and understand certain people reach a point where the skill sets are beyond them, but that's the importance of the team. Because if we begin to bring in the team and centralize some of the management and start to create process and procedures and structures that carry across the enterprise, that's when you start to really leverage value.
So from your experience, how important is it to have a partner on the team that understands technology and marketing?
It's you have to. I mean, honestly, because even if you hire a person, here's what I like about your model. I think your model's brilliant, okay? And I've said that to you privately, right? If you hire somebody, a guy, gal comes in and you put them on the payroll because they know X, Y, and Z, okay, that's all well and good, but now they're from inside the four walls of your firm. Their skill sets begin to diminish in that they're not outside those four walls, seeing who's doing what else, wherever else, and being able to bring that to you. The fact that you're on the outside and you see the bleeding edge technologies that are being leveraged and how people are winning with them is a huge feather in your cap and those that hire you. The fact that you bring trained assets and drivers to the table for the Bugatti you're about to drop off that I don't know how to drive, I just know I need to get this thing from here to here. And me behind the wheel, not going to work. Actually, my skill set is in a different part of the business.
That's true.
And that's what you bring to them. So your partnership with these businesses, as far as I'm concerned, is paramount.
So what they get, because I understand business, and
yes,
so it's not just the marketing part. Like I've been through businesses. I opened my own businesses. I got screwed every direction it's possible because when I started, I had no education, no experience, and nobody to talk to.
Right.
So I kind of had to go through walls to understand. And then, I got blessed with meeting people in the right places. And now we have such a big network that we can cover so many areas. Now, I always tell the business owner, the first thing I need to understand your business. What is your vision? What is your business? Once we understand their business and their vision, that's me as the business developer part, I can position him to grow. Like, who's your team? So I go into the big companies, and they usually have a team. They have a marketing team, they have an IT team, and they have all these titles and all these payrolls, but they're not producing anything really solid. It looks, they work enough not to get fired.
Right.
They're on the payroll, so what they got to lose? Now, versus when you have an outside team that will act as your in-house team, that becomes very powerful because now there's two interests. Number one, you are a partner, you're a client. They have to make sure to outperform everyone else. And number two, they work technically in-house, virtually, but in-house. And now you have your own consulting team in there with their technology. And then what happens with RewardLion in the back office, where we train and push and give education and bring in experts to grow these teams in order to maximize your business. This has never been happened before.
And here's what I think is incredibly valuable, which is why, forgive me for interrupting you, but I didn't want to lose this thought. If it's a bigger company where they already have IT staff and marketing staff, you're now up the chain of command here. You're dealing with a much bigger business, right? So could the possibility of these two entities coexisting, a marketing company that's internally, or rather a marketing team that's internal, and then, of course, your team to the outside? Absolutely. Why? Because depending on how big it is and how many products and services they have, the people that are internal to the organization are going to know the culture, the value add, the nuances of the products and services, and they can work with the stakeholders in those respective areas and then begin to work with your team when they're helping with the culture and the nuances that you want to put out to the marketplace, leveraging the top cutting edge marketing tools and technical strategies to get the message out there. So they could coexist.
They should.
And frankly, if it's a smaller company, they're wiser, in my opinion, to hire you because it's such a small investment for all intents and purposes, given what it would take to hire a body and having them just kind of managing something that's internal, where you're building something, but behind the scenes, and what they don't see happening is you integrating newer, faster, better products and services to get their message further, broader, and wider to the right audience.
And I always tell them, like, if you have your own team, let us train them.
Right. Exactly.
That's it.
Yep.
So you're gonna have this team communicating with this team, and let them, work together and help your business and scale your business and work on efficiency. Now, when you have a team that is outdated,
exactly,
and then I recommend them to get rid of them. I tell them, you don't need them.
Yeah, it's true.
If you have a good team, we can make them better.
Well, repurpose them, right? We had this conversation in the car on the way down,
Yeah.
right? Great book, Good to Great, Jim Collins, right? Get the right people on the bus. You've got a good team and you've got the right people on the bus. Great. Get them all in the right seat. If at some point a particular seat becomes obsolete because you can farm this out to you at a lesser expense and a higher quality, repurpose that individual if they're good for your culture and find another place for them to contribute, because good people are hard to find.
That's true. And the marketing, so let's say people have marketing efforts, like business needs to spend marketing. If you have all these type of payrolls that are already sucking down your marketing budget, and then you don't have enough marketing budget, that means you are mismanaging your finance. Mm-hmm. And if you have teams that you outgrew, like you said, they have to, if you can teach them how to be better, that's good. If not, you got to replace them. A lot of the companies that I work with, they have their own team, their IT, their marketing, and they usually have other marketing companies too. And then when they come to me, I'm shocked how they have all these people and they're not in compliance.
But if they have all these people, well, compliance is a whole other conversation. Hold that thought for a second, right? But if they're that big, they also have a CFO or somebody who's handling budgeting and helping them see what level of growth and where they're getting returns on their investment, on their marketing. And I know you track that impeccably, and I believe you can track every dollar that goes out and every dollar that comes in from that marketing. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay. So there's a way to, pardon the expression, cost justify yourself, but really show the value add that you and your team are. And if somebody is looking at the books, and it makes more sense to, offhand and offload this responsibility to more capable people, back to my point, repurpose some of these individuals and find a place for them. Because the further you go up the ladder with a bigger company, the conversation started with smaller companies, like ourselves, right? And then as it gets bigger and you've got IT teams and marketing teams and a CFO and things like that, now it's the CEO. It's like, okay, where do you want to go? I want to go here, I want to accomplish this, and we need to do it by X date. Here's our audience, and here's our value add. You're working on the branding, the messaging, and everything else. You're using the tools to get the message out into the world. And then you get the CFO helping budget and continue. If the sales are coming, what's obvious to me is the budget should be growing, that should be going into marketing to support it, because it's a percentage of the gross revenue.
One thing I noticed, like there's some companies, because they're financially good, they're growing, they think they're on the right track, but when you look at it and we look at the operation, they don't see how much they're bleeding. Mm-hmm. Because the money is coming in, so you don't notice that.
Right.
Like, so when you go into the business and you have all these different departments and all these different systems that don't communicate to each other, you're bleeding.
100%.
And to maximize efficiency and understand that your team they might be just titles, you have to work on that. And that's what we help them with. We work with their teams. If they have a good team, we work with them. And then they have our team to kind of like drive efficiency. But what happens
only in marketing, forgive me for interrupting, only in marketing?
Software.
Or are you able to help bring software, and do you have people on staff that know how to do AR and AP and things that roll up into QuickBooks and whatever they're using as their accounting packages? Can you provide some of that as well?
Yeah, so basically we customize it where the entire infrastructure, it's an operating system for your business, and your entire finance and infrastructure is communicating in a way that you know exactly where your marketing effort is spent, where it's producing ROI, how is it handled during the sales pitch, and then what happens after it turns into a customer? Is it going to be like a recurring customer? Is there like a customer loyalty program? Is there like, so it's not just about bringing in customers to the business, it's about bringing in customers to the business and keeping them in the business, because it costs you more going after new customers
100%.
than taking care of your existing customers.
Yeah. But it's interesting. You open up a door, and I kind of want to lean in here on this, right? When you're talking about the software and stuff, and you're talking about the CFO, and you want the budget, and I'm talking about cost justifying that budget that you could or should have based on that growth, right? And it's a percentage of the revenue.
Yes.
Is the software, though, that you bring to the table the accounting packages? Yes or no? Can you bring that to the table? That's my question.
It has QuickBooks integrated in it directly.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So as a company scales and gets bigger, you can migrate them into an enterprise level software so that that accounting team can continue to, grow, but also tighten up the communication and the leakage that was otherwise there that you were speaking of. Okay, perfect.
See,
that's amazing.
The operating system, the way it works is it grows with your company. So you create it, and then it gets customized, and it grows as you grow, and you monitor all aspects of your marketing and sales effort and your finance and all that stuff. So you understand that there's leakage. You start eliminating it. Then you understand there's compliance, which is another big game.
Yeah.
And then once you understand all these things and you work on it, you actually scale. Now, most of these companies I work with, they think they have the right people already. And a lot of them, they think they're smarter because now I didn't go to a company, I got a payroll, so they work for me. But who are you to kind of teach them what to do? So you bring someone with a title, whatever, education, worked at a company, but that person worked as an individual in a company, part of a big
team
organization and team. So you have someone that is good in IT, but where is his account manager or his CTO and all these other elements? So you don't benefit. Yes, you are paying the payroll, you have the title, but he's not equipped to manage all this.
Well, and back to the point I was making earlier, where the fact that you're on the outside, you're working with a $5 million company, a $10 million, 25, 50, 100.
You have data.
You're seeing, exactly, you see real live examples as to what that migration path looks like, whereas the person that was on that IT team probably wasn't one making the enterprise future planning decisions as to integrating software, hardware, whatever might be next for that growth.
Plus, they're order takers.
Because how many times have you seen a business where sales is blowing up, but the infrastructure is not there to support it?
Nope. It crashes.
Right.
And the thing is with the team, so I have a company that they have marketing directors. So they have chief operation officer. It was a big infrastructure. When we started doing the marketing effort, we realized they don't have a sales director. I'm like, how you initiate marketing without sales director? You can't, right? So what happens is, they paying a lot of money. They were paying $200,000 probably on a monthly payroll, but they had the wrong elements. So it was the wrong people and missing people, and that's what we help them with. And once they actually put everything in place, they scale and they grow. But when they don't, what happens is they just hemorrhaging money. It's just
Well,
payroll.
And that's the thing. You've alluded to this now a couple of times, where they might be selling a lot. Sales solves a lot of problems. But if they don't take the time to dig in, where we, again, had this conversation while we were driving, right? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Exactly.
So if the tools aren't there to allow for you to measure it and integrate and tighten it up, whereby those leakage...
And accountability is important.
Exactly.
So in the past, before we had this amazing technology, before we built it, and the reason it was built, by the way, is when we used to do marketing efforts, like when I was very small in the business and we used to do marketing efforts, they were telling us, oh, bad leads. We couldn't measure it. You know, you can only see that there's a lead, but you couldn't measure it. But because of the technology now and the tracking, when they say it's a bad lead, show me which one. And then we can actually measure if it was a bad lead or not. Because there's a percentage. So there is a 10%. So basically, if the lead opts in for any of your business or any business, if you don't communicate with them within like 3 minutes to 5 minutes, the interest will go down by 80%. So your chances of closing them is going to drop by 80% in 3 minutes. Now, how I still see companies that they get their lead into an email. Like, really? So it's about efficiency and response. Now with the AI initiatives we have, which is 24/7, we teach them that because most companies don't. And when they hire a professional, the professional is, okay, you want me for a task. I'm going to do this task and I'm going to get paid for it and I'm going to move on. If it works, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. But when you work with us, it's like, okay, what do you want to try to achieve here? Because there's a lot of elements here. Do you want to exit your business after all that? Because then we have to prepare, with other resources, with other knowledge.
Tax planning, like all that stuff.
And that's the difference. We build you to scale. And in order to build you to scale, we have to understand your business and your vision, and you have to untie our hands. I can't work my hands behind my back.
No, and actually when you were saying earlier, when you were initially interviewing that CEO, what's your vision, right? And one of the questions I want to ask, because you're building a team, I want to know what's your superpower.
Exactly.
If we're building a business and you've just told me everything you've told me, it's like marketing,
check,
handled. Right?
Absolutely.
But where are the weak spots? So let's now begin to continue to build a team and foster the experience necessary that's going to allow for a collaborative environment so that we're all open, honest, transparent, check the egos at the door, no greed, no ego, right? And what's the outcome we're intending for the business owner? That's the bottom line. Yeah.
Yeah, we work with them. First of all, it's all about growth and scalability. And that doesn't work without transparency. Now, of course, the program, the finance, it's a joke. If you can't afford this kind of finance for your marketing initiative, then you don't have a business.
Agreed.
And I learned a lot. We have a lot of data. So we understood, like, okay, any business that does like less than $650 a year, it's very high risk and it might not survive.
100%.
All right. Any business that is doing more than that, there's a better chance for them to survive because they have more liquid to invest. No matter what engine you build, if you don't have marketing efforts, you don't have a marketing budget, there's no growth. Now, a lot of those businesses, some of them are very old, so they have the referrals. It's drying. Like, how many businesses came to me and they're like, yeah, we were doing great, but the referral is drying, Like, it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same because now while you locally, you didn't have any online presence, a 1-year-old company came out online and now they're taking all your business.
Well, that's the thing. You have at that point, when you use the number 650 or a million, whatever that is, right? Or even this overnight success, what you're proving is you have demand, you have proof of concept, right? And then something else that we would just make sense to add to this, it's like Peter Drucker, right? Then it's about culture. You want your people to enjoy what they're doing. You want that vibe to be attractive to the people that are sniffing around when you get that first lead. Because like you said, in that first 3 minutes, you need to make an impact. So the people who pick that phone up or send that email, you want to feel joy, 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 happy to serve you. How can we help? We're awesome and we want to bring our awesomeness to your thing,
So I met last week someone that has a very interesting business. Let's call him XYZ again. He has a $50,000 a month marketing budget. He has a $10,000 a month marketing agency bill invoice. And I'm like, okay, let's talk. Let's see what's going on here. And when he opened the hood and I look, I'm like, wow, there's nothing. So they're running ads, which is Google ads. It's very easy to run. His ROI is 3x, which is horrible. He puts $1, he makes $3. But he thought, oh, that's great.
Right.
Because you don't know what you don't know.
Most would, yeah.
Yeah. I never had a company that I work with that in any industry that we produced less than 7x, which is very wild, by the way.
That's excellent, yeah.
Now, when I looked at his business, there's one landing page. I'm like, okay, where's your A/B testing?
Right.
There is no social media efforts. There's no TV efforts. There's no billboard efforts. And there's no branding efforts. I'm like, okay, if you make 3x with this shit,
Yeah. Call it what it is,
you
bro.
know,
Yeah.
with this kind of, imagine what you can do when you have an infrastructure like ours.
Well, here's the question I would ask, going back to that gentleman, right? With his, $1 in, $3 out. Has his budget been static, meaning that he just spends 10 grand a month in, month out, and that's all he's done? There's
Yeah,
a method
50
of
yeah.
So he's spending 10. He's got 50 to play with, but he's spending 10. Right? So if you put $1 in and you're going to get 3 out, why wouldn't you scale that up if you're getting 3x? Not to mention, here comes someone to the table who's saying, I can help you improve that, and I can give you branding like you just described across all these platforms.
You can't sustain growth because one thing I told him, why didn't you raise your budget if you're making that kind of money anyway?
Exactly.
Which is, he's like, yeah, it's just too much work in the back office. I'm like, okay, so how do you what's the next step after the lead comes? And it turns out like everything he's using is outdated.
But why is he doing that, though? Like we were talking earlier, too, about cutting corners and things like that. And I said, pay me now or pay me later. But what's driving him to hold on to those dollars? Is it? I don't want to start saying things, but you tell me.
He can't scale.
Why?
He can't because his infrastructure is built incorrectly.
Is he a control freak? Is he an egomaniac and he's got to control everything? Is he greedy and he doesn't want to spend any more money but just wants to make money?
I think he had bad advice.
I mean, okay.
Because here's what happened, basically. In his business, what happens is that the way his sales pipeline is, it's very inefficient. So there is manual labor to it.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been automated, but because the way they build it for him, there's manual labor, and then there's a lot of things are missing. So the company that he has, they're basically running ads, and that's all they know.
Yeah, right.
So he doesn't even have an operating system. He doesn't have an infrastructure. He doesn't have. Everything is like really outdated.
So the better things get for him, the more manual labor he's creating for his enterprise. Yeah,
so
he just needs to redo this. No.
So now he's signing with us.
Good.
We're building, of course. I love this one because there's no,
smart move, buddy.
There's no infrastructure. So now we're building the infrastructure. And then we're gonna go ahead and work on scalability.
And you're gonna rock his world about 6 months into this, however long it takes to get it set up.
I think he's easily gonna be at a 7, 10x.
Yeah.
Because I seen his business model is a very difficult niche.
And he's gonna be all over the place.
Yes.
By the time your people are done with him, he's gonna be everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you're automating everything and he doesn't have to have all of this physical labor, actually, just even if you're just sitting there taking cash at a register, automate it.
Yeah, he has no automation. He basically, and the sad part is like he went to professionals.
And that's where the scale is. The scale's in the automation.
Yes. The AI and automation, that's why the operating system is so important.
Yeah.
You can build and track and monetize. So I told them like one thing, okay, so how do you track because it's e-commerce, so it's easier to track sales. But when I told them like, what is your CTR? Or what is your conversion rate? Because it was Google. He's like, I'll be lucky if I have a 5%. I'm like, wow, that's bad. That's actually very bad. So there's leakage. There is no infrastructure. There is no system. But he is paying $60,000 a month. So it's just paying it to the wrong people. And that's why it's important to have the proper team. You need to have people that been there, done it, and truly have a solution for you that is long-term. Now, once you see the solution is all about taking the money from you, run.
Yeah.
But once you find a company that looks for longevity, that's the company you want to be.
Well, and that's the thing, because you'll see the longevity, but it's also a predictable outcome. So I've spent enough time with you to know that as certain benchmarks get hit, you have a plan to take it to the next level, right? And so that's what you'll also find absent when working with these people that don't have the idea that you do.
Absolutely. So we want to wrap this up today. Do you want to say anything, and you want to tell them anything about the book?
As far as the book goes, I'll just say I poured my heart out into it just for people to know what they're getting into. I am speaking to business owners, teaching them what they're not learning from the financial advisors, because these guys are doing generally what serves their grid. So I'm teaching you really great strategies from a financial management standpoint. I'm also teaching them what they're going to need to know before which time they exit their business. Some of it's kind of the street kid story in me that kind of gives me the attitude that I have in wanting to have the back of good, entrepreneurs like yourself. I'm the guy that sticks his chin out and says, wait a second, we're going to the attorney. I don't care care who they are. I'm going to throw a flag on the play, and we're going to discuss this if it's not in your best outcome, right? And lastly, my faith story, kind of just how I operate from, child of the King, man. And just kind of I just have the Holy Spirit with me. And,
I love that.
And yeah, I mean,
that's
honestly, that's who I am. And
that's
for people who are uncomfortable with that, I'm probably not your guy. But honestly, I have a great relationship with Jesus. You and I met in that kind of an environment, just being regular guys with our shortcomings, smoking cigars, and finding that what we had in common was just a heart to do the right thing for people.
And I think that's I think that's one of the key strengths that we both have is that we care about the business.
100%. It's shocking. I made a comment, I'll leave you on this note, to an old timer when I'm in the business. I'm in about 15 years now, and I was killing myself when I first came aboard because there was just so much to study, getting these licenses and designations and everything. And this guy was saying, "How you doing?" I says, "Oh God, this is killing me." I says, I says, "I'd like to think there's one more. There's room on Wall Street for one more honest guy." He starts laughing. He goes, "There's more room than that."
That's true.
So anyway,
all right, thank you, Brian, for coming here.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's always a pleasure.